What's going on guys, Quality Darren here today, bringing you a tutorial on how I make my thumbnails for my videos. I said if you guys smash 60 likes on my last video, which was how I edit my videos, I would go ahead and make this, and I think that's currently over 80 likes, so that's absolutely amazing. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll leave it linked in the description below for you guys to access quite easily. But anyway, yeah, today the program I'm going to be using is called Photoshop. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of it. There's lots of other things out there you can use. I don't have any of the names offhand right now, but this is what I'm going to be using, and it's pretty much a tutorial for that. So anyway guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing I do is obviously open the Photoshop program. Then what I'm going to go to do is click File, New, and then for this kind of dimensions here, I put 1920 width by 1080 height. This is obviously one of the bigger resolutions that I like to work with. You can use 1280 by 720 or even smaller ones, but what I like to do is 1920 by 1080 just because it gives me more kind of area to work with, and I can see if there's any kind of small flaws or anything. You can see everything's so much bigger, so that's why I use that. Make sure it's on pixels as well, not any of these other ones. So yeah, make sure it's on pixels, and then make the background contents transparent. You don't have to, but it's something I like to do. So anyway, yeah, okay, so you go ahead and make that transparent. Then you'll be left with this background right here. So what I do then, the first step I do is go to my desktop, go to this Quality Darren folder I talked about in my last video, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this. It's called the border trans, which obviously stands for transparent border. Go ahead and add that. So you actually won't be able to see that too well right now, but it actually is there, and you'll see the effect of it a little more in the video later. But for the sake of this video, by the way guys, what I'm going to be designing is actually the thumbnail for this video that you guys are watching right now. So I thought that'd be a pretty cool idea, so you can actually see how it turns out and everything. So anyway, yeah, the first thing I'm going to be doing, I'm going to do it in the same kind of format as I did this one right here. So we're going to go with a background with a pattern on it. We're going to have a logo on the right hand side, and then we're going to have the text on the left hand side. So that's if I do ones like for example this one right here, I just get a random bit of random shot of gameplay. I can get it from Google Images or maybe from the video I just recorded, and I go ahead and put that in the background. You can see the kind of border, the transparent border around that as well. And then I add my text, and then I add a couple of images from Google Images or whatever, and I also put my face in some of them as well, which I just take from maybe a video that I recorded on my webcam. So okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so the first thing, as I said, I'm going to be doing a background. So we're going to go down here to the rectangle tool, and we're going to create a box that just about fits around that. I think I do have a border around this. One second, let me just check here. I think I do have a border. Yeah, I do have a border around this, so I'm actually going to take that off. You can see this little menu here where you can edit stuff from that. So I'm going to take that border off around the outside. I think I had that on for something else I did, but don't worry about that. So yeah, I have this right now, and I'm actually using this purple background here. You can change whatever color you want it to be. In this little color swatch down here, you can change it to, it will say white for example. You just change that there, and then you go to your paint bucket tool and go ahead and click on the image then, and then it will change. Control Z is the way to undo a step, by the way, if you guys are wondering. But yeah, so that's what I do, and then I just drag this down one, and then the transparent border will become more visible around the outside then. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is actually add a pattern to the background. So to do this, simply double click on your little layer over there, and then you'll be met with all these options. You can bevel and emboss it, all this kind of stuff. Add a stroke. Stroke is just basically an outline around it. You can do all these other things like a color overlay and all that kind of stuff, but what we're going to be dealing with is a pattern overlay. So when I put this on right now, you're probably like, what the fuck, that looks absolutely stupid, but these are some of the patterns, by the way. You can put on all this kind of stuff, but a trick with this is actually to just change the opacity, so it only slightly gives it the effect. So if I bring this opacity down, you can kind of see it just kind of slightly visible, just to give it a little bit more, I don't even know, more of an effect, I guess you could say. And I'll just show you the examples of other things like that as well. So you can pretty much put whatever one you want on it, just to give it that little extra kind of effect, I guess. That's the only word I can think of to describe it. But yeah, so I'll bring that down just a little bit to where you kind of like it, so that will do for that. Okay, so next I'm going to add my text. Now, a website to get that you can get text from, all sorts of awesome text, is defont.com. It's obviously free. You can get loads of fonts. You can go to like top fonts, see which ones are popular at the moment. You can even type your text here, like for example, say Quality Darren. And then if we go ahead and search that, it will actually bring up all these texts with that. So it kind of gives you an example of what you're looking for. Maybe if you want to say something like YouTube tutorial and then type that in, it'll give you all these kind of things, and you can pick the one that you're looking for. But anyway, yeah, they have lots and lots of fonts on here. So what you do is you basically download them, and then you just install them very easily. Then they'll pop into Photoshop right here. So what I'm going to do is start creating a new text layer, and I'm going to type what I want it to say. So let's see, for example, we'll say how I edit. No, I'll just leave that just how I first. So you can see the text right there, and if you don't like the text, you can simply highlight it flick through all your different text layers and stuff like, or flick through all your different fonts, and you can change it to whatever you want, basically like this, kind of whatever suits you, I guess. But the font I'm using for this is Molot, I think it's called, if that's how you pronounce it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, like so. And another thing you can do as well, like some people will go like this, they just click enter and then start typing like make my thumbnails and stuff like that. But what I usually do is I do them in separate layers. So for example, I'll get rid of this, and then I would actually copy this layer. You just right click it and click duplicate layer. Hopefully you guys are still following me. I know it's a little bit tricky if you've never seen Photoshop before, but hopefully it's something you can kind of master as well. I've picked up a good few tips over the years of using it and stuff, and I'm quite nifty at it now, I guess you could say. But anyway, so I make another text layer and I call it let's see, edit my, or make, sorry, how I make my. Okay, and then you can see I can actually move this as close or as far as I want, which you can't do that if you just click enter, as in dropping down to the next line on a text layer. So I pretty much made another text layer, and then we'll do the same again, and we'll call this one thumbnails. So let's go ahead and do that. How I make my thumbnails. Okay. Now what you can do as well here is, if you want to edit them all at the same time, for example make them all bigger, just select the 3 layers by holding Control and clicking them, and then go ahead and click Control T, which will allow you to reshape them. And if you hold Shift, it will keep the aspect ratio that they already have. So for example like this, I think I need to make these a little bit smaller actually, and bring it over. And to make sure they're all in line as well, you can go ahead and click View and then click Rulers, and that will give you kind of like these little rulers that you can make sure all your things are aligned and everything like that. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, just drag them over, make sure they're all in line. That looks pretty good to me, so yep. Okay, so that's some of the basics. Then the next thing I'm going to do is actually edit the text to give it some effects and stuff. So I usually add a stroke to it, so we have to do these ones separately, you can't do them all together. So we'll go ahead and double click that again, and then I'll bring up all these options and stuff. So we're going to click stroke, and we're going to go into that, and we're going to make this stroke 15, I think. Yeah, 15 will do for that. Okay, and then we're going to do the next one. Okay, so the next step, I'm actually going to test out some gradient overlay on these. So what you do again is just double click on it, bring up this menu again, and you can click gradient overlay. Now it already has some kind of preset gradient overlays. You see I use this orange one quite a good bit. We've got this blue one, I use this red one a little bit and stuff like that. But for this one I'm just going to, you can make your own as well, by the way. I will say for example this blue one here, if you click the actual color part of it, you can go ahead and change them to make it whatever you want or whatever. You can click here, put different colors in. For example, make that red, and then you can actually click save and it will add a new one into it. But for now we're just going to use one of the preset ones, which is let me see which one I'll go for. We'll go for this one. I quite like that one. It just has a little bit of kind of a dark fade on the bottom of it, so we're going to go ahead and apply that to the other two as well. Okay, so for the next part I'm going to add the Photoshop logo in the right hand corner. So I basically just went onto Google Images, typed in Photoshop logo PNG. A PNG just usually gives you a transparent background behind it, no like kind of white borders or anything, so that's pretty handy. If you do download an image with white borders, so all you have to do is go to this eraser here and use the magic eraser tool. That will get rid of any color in the background if you want to. But anyway, yeah, so let's go ahead and grab this, which I've already downloaded right here on the desktop, and we'll go ahead and drag that in. Okay, so now we're going to make this quite a little bit larger, like so. And we'll have that in the background. If you move these up layers, obviously it goes ahead or behind the text, so we're going to leave that in the background there for now. Okay, so what I don't like about this right now is the kind of make my thumbnails are kind of interfering with the logo. So that's kind of the process of making it. You'll see things that you don't exactly like. So what you can do is I'm going to delete this. You can see because these have set spaces in them. So that's, for example, it's one space, but it's actually quite big. So what you can do to combat that is actually just copy the delete that. And then go ahead and make a copy of one of the previous ones. So we'll say for how I will make a copy of that, duplicate layer. And then if you actually just edit that text layer and put in you can change the distance it comes away from it. So you could have it like this much, you could have it this much or whatever. So yeah, that's a good thing about having different text layers. You can have a lot more freedom with it. And then just make sure that they're both lined up. But yeah, so it's kind of a trial and error kind of process. Just find out things you like, and you'll definitely change your design as you go along. But anyway, that's basically how I make my thumbnails. As I said, for like ones that I do Call of Duty in, I just get an image off Google Images, put it in the background, and then go ahead and add my text and stuff like that. And actually, one second before I do, because I forgot to actually render I forgot to render my video last time in the how I edit, so I'm not going to forget how to export this time. I'm actually going to make a couple more changes, a few slight changes before I actually use this as the finished thumbnail, but that's just basically how I do them. But what I'm going to show you is if you go to File, you go to Save As, and then if you wait, usually I go PNG, but oftentimes if you do the PNG, seeing as I'm using such a high resolution, it'll actually be over 2 megabytes, which is the limit for thumbnails on YouTube. So what you can actually do is go to JPEG, which are actually quite smaller files, and then we'll save this as video 1 or something like that, and save it at your desktop, wherever you want to save it, and then click save, and then you can see you can make it a smaller large file. Obviously the smaller file will give it less clear image, but you can see it's 541 kilobits, which is absolutely fine. And then you can go ahead and click OK, and then we'll actually export that to the desktop. I'll just show you guys right now. So there it is, your finished product. Obviously, as I said, I'm going to make a couple more changes before I finish with that, the final product. But anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy. If you want to see more, as I said, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, and we'll see if we can smash 70 likes this time on this video. That'd be absolutely amazing. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I've been Quality Darren, and peace out.